And one of the things with post-traumatic stress is things can trigger it. So when you break up with a girlfriend, or maybe your animal dies, or maybe an anniversary date of your friend's death, there's many things that can trigger. Memorial Day, Christmas. Well, when he realized his relationship with Lauren was over, he started to sink into a deep, deep depression. And he started to isolate himself. He stopped going to work. He worked with me. I have the family business. And Johnny would come to work with me, and of course I loved it. I was so proud of my son, just being with him, just standing next to him. I was just so proud. But he started to isolate after his breakup with Lauren and disconnect from everything that he loved and liked. He was disconnecting from life. Those were all red flags, which I didn't know at that time. I wish I would have known. He didn't pay his medical insurance. He had TRICARE, which is like the best. And I found out somehow, I think he got a letter that said, you were late and it's discontinued, and I'm like, what? I said, Johnny, I said, how could you miss this payment? This is so important. He just said, I don't know. Then we had Christmas 2012. I'd gotten him some gift cards and a few little things. And they sat on the pool table for, a few weeks. And I remember thinking, wow, they're gift cards. Johnny loves to go shopping. They just sat there. Again, that's another red flag. He's disconnecting from his life. Then he started disconnecting from his service dog. Then January 1st, Johnny called me from his room, because that's what we do. We call each other in the house. This is 2013. Well, that was 2013. And he was actually crying, and he said, Mom, he said, I need you to come to my room, and I need you to lock up all the guns and lock up all the medication. I said, all right, honey, I'll be right there. So I grabbed Justin on the way to Johnny's room, and I said, come on, let's get Johnny's guns. And in my ignorance at that time, I thought that was a good thing. So we locked up all the guns, and I took his meds. He had morphine, he had a cracked back, and some other drug. I don't know what that was. And he would tell me, he said, Mom, I need some pills, and I would give him 2 or 3 morphine at a time. So again, that was on January 1st. On January 4th, he went to the VA. It was a Friday, 2013. Saw his psychiatrist, and Johnny told her that my mom has all of my drugs locked up and is doling them out to me. And she gave him that day, for some reason, Klonopin again. And then he went to see the back doctor, and he gave him 90 morphine. Now my son, who has severe PTSD, traumatic brain injury, they just said, here's 90 morphine and here's 14 Klonopin. And 8 days later, my son was dead. He died on a Saturday, January 12, 2013. I spent with him Friday night. Saturday, we went out to lunch. Saturday night, he died 10:30. Monday, his psychiatrist called and said, Johnny, you missed your appointment. And I called her back, because I had his phone, of course. And I called her back, and I said, Johnny missed his appointment because he's dead. And she said to me, he was doing so good, I can't believe it. He even told me that you were doling out his meds to him. And I said, you knew that, but yet you put 90 morphine in his hand? And her reply was, oh no, I didn't give him 90 morphine. I only gave him a 14-day supply of Klonopin. It was the other doctor, the back doctor, but they're in the same building. Don't you guys communicate? And then, of course, after my son died, I realized it was the Klonopin because June 2006 was his first attempt. January 2013, 1 week later, my son is dead. What's wrong with that picture? The VA killed my son. They pushed his hand. And how many others out there? Why aren't they including the families on their care? My son, I should have been his caretaker. If I was to go to the hospital and be diagnosed with diabetes or some other dreadful disease, they include the family. They teach them the symptoms before somebody goes into a diabetic shock, right? So you give my son Klonopin and there's symptoms, because I've read about it. If they have odd eye movement, stop taking it, call your doctor. Well, now I know why when I went out to lunch with my son Saturday afternoon, his eyes kept going like this and looking up. But if I would have known, if I was in on it, why? Why aren't they including the families? Is it cheaper, and I hate to say this, is it cheaper to let all of them die than to care for them? To give them the care they need? Why are they prescribing all of these drugs? Why? Is it the money? Is it the pharmaceutical companies? Are the doctors getting kickbacks? It doesn't make any sense. My beautiful son and all of these beautiful children every day taking their own lives. And nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's doing nothing about it. These warfighters that are taking their own lives every day were willing to give their life for us. And the American people just don't care. And I get it. I get that our armed forces, we are just 1% of the population. So 99% of the population doesn't know, that America's at war because they're shopping. My son, when he was in Afghanistan, he was interviewed by a British reporter. And he said to my son, he said, "What do you think America thinks about you being over here?" And my son's response was, "America's not at war. America's at the mall. America wants to know who Britney Spears is bopping, who the Kardashians are doing." Because they're not at war. So why? Why don't we know? Why don't we know? It's just terrible. It's a tragedy. These young, beautiful lives. These young, and then the ripple effect from this. My life is forever changed. I battle thoughts of taking my own life often. The first 5 months, I was ready to go. I had my plan. I didn't want to live anymore because that pain is just... I'd wake up in the morning and the pain would just hit me like a ton of bricks. Then one day I woke up and I was mad. I said, why didn't another mother tell me? My son wasn't the first. He wasn't the first to die like this. Why didn't I know about any of the red flags or post-traumatic stress? This has been going on for years. Why don't we know? So I decided to live that day. I decided to live. And I said, I'll be the voice. That my son's name and his death will not be in vain. My son, Janos Victor Lutz, will save lives.